On a cold December morning in 2008, William Anderson was drinking tea as usual in his small apartment in Portland. Nothing in the life of this ordinary 43-year-old man could be considered luxurious. Old furniture, worn carpet, broken dishwasher. He rented according to his salary and lived calculating every penny. When there was a knock at the door, he thought it was the mailman, but the man standing at his door had brought news that would change his life forever. The envelope in his hand was thick and bore official seals. After seriously verifying William's identity, the man delivered the envelope. When William opened the envelope, he couldn't believe his eyes. Numbers, banks, investments, and the figure at the bottom, $2.4 billion. He was the owner of this money. William Anderson, who had struggled for money for 20 years and fought to pay his rent every month, was actually one of the richest people in the country. But how could this be possible? William Anderson was born on May 12, 1965, in Salem, a small town in Oregon. His father, Frank Anderson, was a carpenter, and his mother, Dorothy Anderson, was a housewife. He was the only child of a middle-class American family. His childhood years were quite ordinary. A normal child who ran through Salem's quiet streets, rode his bike to school, and helped his father in the carpentry workshop on weekends. Money was never discussed in the family dolls. They had enough, but nothing that could be considered luxury. William's grandfather, Harold Anderson, was a mysterious figure. Born in the 1920s, he had worked various jobs in his youth, but had never married. He was known in the family as Weird Harold. Harold rarely came to visit. He would appear once or twice a year, chat with William for a while, then disappear again. No one knew exactly where he lived or what work he did. His mother, Dorothy, would say that Uncle Harold was a bit odd, but a good-hearted man. William was greatly influenced by his grandfather. Harold would tell him strange stories, talk about distant countries, and sometimes bring strange stones and old coins. In 1975, when William was 10 years old, Harold Anderson passed away. Very few people came to the funeral. No one knew much about the old man. After Harold's death, the family stopped talking about him. They acted as if he had never existed. William would sometimes wonder about his grandfather, but his family would change the subject. During high school years, William was an average student, neither very successful nor unsuccessful. He liked mathematics and history classes, but his future plans were unclear. After graduating from high school in 1983, William studied business at the local college. He had no big dreams, just wanted to find a decent job and live a normal life. When he finished college in 1987, he moved to Portland. The size of the city excited him, but there was an unemployment problem. After months of job searching, he found an entry-level position at a small accounting firm. The first years were very difficult for William. His salary was low. Portland was an expensive city. He rented a small studio apartment, calculating every penny. In the 1990s, William began to establish stability in his life. He got promoted at the accounting firm and started earning a slightly better salary, but he was still living a middle-class life. In 1995, he met Rebecca Miller. Rebecca was also an accountant, a beautiful 28-year-old woman. William fell in love with her, and they married in 1997. The first years of marriage were happy. Rebecca and William shared similar values, preferring a simple life. They planned to have children, but it never happened. As they entered the 2000s, William's life became difficult. The accounting firm he worked for downsized. His salary didn't increase. At the same time, Rebecca's health problems began. Rebecca's treatment costs strained the family budget. William started working extra jobs, doing cleaning work on weekends, trying to earn money in every way possible. In 2003, Rebecca's condition worsened. Doctors suggested expensive treatment, but insurance wouldn't cover it. William mortgaged the house, took out loans, tried every avenue. Unfortunately, Rebecca died in 2005. William had both lost his wife and gotten into big debt. He was 40 years old, and his life was shattered. After Rebecca's death, William fell into depression. He lost his job, had to sell his house. In 2006, he rented a small apartment in one of Portland's cheapest neighborhoods. During this period, William was completely alone. He had no friends. His relationship with his family was distant. He found work as a security guard, working night shifts. 2007 was very difficult for William. He struggled to pay his rent every month. Sometimes he was short on food money, following market promotions. One evening when he came home, there was a strange letter in his mailbox. It bore the logo of a law firm he didn't recognize, Morrison, Blake & Associates. When he opened the letter, he was surprised. It said there was an urgent need to discuss Harold Anderson's inheritance. William remembered his grandfather, but he had died 30 years ago. At first, he thought the letter was fraud, but when he researched the phone number, he found it was a real law firm. Curiously, he called the firm. The secretary on the phone was very kind. She said they had been looking for William for a long time. She stated that they needed to discuss his grandfather's inheritance. William made an appointment, but wasn't very hopeful. Maybe Harold had an old house. Maybe there was an inheritance of a few $1,000s. The law firm's office was in Portland's most expensive district. William was very surprised. Why had he been called from such a luxurious place? Lawyer James Morrison was a serious-looking man in his 60s. When he took William into his office, his expression was strange. Morrison said this meeting would be very unexpected. He took out a thick file from his desk and explained to William his grandfather Harold Anderson had died in 1975, but the inheritance he left him had now been discovered. William was surprised. How had it been discovered now? 30 years had passed. Morrison took a deep breath. There was a special condition in Harold Anderson's will. The inheritance would only be revealed after a certain date. That date had passed last month. Morrison opened the file. Inside were old documents, bonds, bank statements. All were in Harold Anderson's name. William learned that his grandfather had discovered a gold mine in California in the 1940s, but he had kept this secret. For years he had extracted gold from that mine and secretly made investments. Morrison continued, Harold hadn't just found gold. With that gold, he had bought real estate, invested in companies. From the 1950s to 1975, he had grown his portfolio. Looking at the documents on the desk, William's breath was taken away. Apple, Microsoft, IBM, Harold Anderson had invested in these companies in very early periods. When he died in 1975, Harold's portfolio was worth $50 million. But there was a special condition in his will. This money would remain invested for 30 years, not distributed to anyone. William's head was confused. Why did he need to wait 30 years? Morrison took out an old letter. It was written in Harold's handwriting. He wanted them to give this inheritance to his grandson after 30 years. By then, he would have learned the value of life. During these 30 years, the money had continued to grow. Technology stocks had soared. Real estate had appreciated. Morrison handed William the report on the desk. The figure at the bottom, $2.4 billion. William leaned back in his chair. This figure couldn't be real. At that time, he was working as a security guard, barely paying his rent each month. Morrison confirmed that this money completely belonged to William. His grandfather had designated him as the sole heir. William's mind went blank. Last night, he had bought cheap pasta from the market. Today he was learning he was a billionaire. William asked why his family hadn't been told. Morrison took out another document. Harold Anderson had thought of this too. In his will, he had put the condition that the family should not be informed. Money changed people. He had wanted to see William's true character. The following days were difficult for William. He couldn't tell anyone he was a billionaire because they wouldn't believe him. He couldn't believe it himself. Morrison showed him the account details. Banks, investment accounts, real estate, everything was now in William Anderson's name. In the first days, William tried to continue his normal life. He went to work as a security guard, lived in his small apartment, but there was a big storm inside him. At night, lying in bed, he would think, was this real? Were $2.4 billion his? A week later, William quit his job. He didn't explain why to his boss, just said it was for personal reasons. The first thing he did was visit Rebecca's grave. He sat for hours in front of his wife's tombstone and cried. If only his wife were there too, they would have spent this money together. William's life slowly began to change. First, he rented a larger apartment. Then he bought a car, but he was still being careful. In 2009, William started giving money to charities. He supported organizations that helped patients. This issue was very close to him because of Rebecca's illness. Wealth changed William, but not in a bad way. He became more compassionate, more understanding. He decided to use the power of money for good. In 2010, William bought back his old house. He had the house restored, but didn't make it too ostentatious. He arranged it as a simple but comfortable place. That same year, he began communicating with old friends. But he didn't say he was rich, just stated that business was going well. In 2012, William made a big decision. He decided to build a hospital in Portland in Rebecca's name. He allocated $100 million to the project. The hospital opened in 2015. Rebecca Anderson Memorial Hospital was Portland's most modern healthcare facility. William gave a speech at the opening ceremony, but didn't reveal his wealth. He just said he had built it in memory of his wife. During this period, William began to acquire new hobbies. He learned to paint, started playing piano. He was discovering things that money couldn't buy. In 2018, William was 53 years old and satisfied with his life. Wealth had made him happy, but not the money itself. The good deeds he could do. That year, he built a large shelter for the homeless in Portland. The project cost $50 million, but it was important to William. William's charitable work began to attract media attention, but he still kept his identity secret. He was known as an anonymous benefactor. When the pandemic started in 2020, William made a big move. He established a support fund for healthcare workers, allocating $200 million. During this period, William became even more active. Education, health, environment, he had projects in many areas. In 2022, William met with his parents. He went to Salem after years. His parents had aged, but were healthy. He didn't tell them he was rich, but started helping. He had their house repaired, covered their health expenses. His parents thought William's business was going well, but they didn't know the truth. Today, in 2025, William Anderson is 60 years old. He had learned he was a billionaire 17 years ago and had completely changed his life. He is now one of Portland's known philanthropists. He has established dozens of projects, helped thousands of people, but he still leads a simple life. William's house is big, but not ostentatious. His car is expensive, but an unobtrusive model. His dress is neat, but not branded. William thinks that money changes people, but the person decides how they will change. Today, William's wealth is over $4 billion, but he spends most of the money on charity. He knows he can't take his money to heaven. William's story continues. Every day, new projects, new help, new hopes. His grandfather Harold's plan had worked. If William had received the money when he was young, it might have been different. But when he learned at 43, he understood the value of money. William sometimes thinks, if Rebecca were with him, How would they have spent this money together? But he continues to keep Rebecca's memory alive. The hospital he built in her name brings thousands of people to health. William Anderson's story shows us that money doesn't bring happiness, but when used correctly, it's a powerful tool. As someone who struggled with poverty for 20 years, William knows the value of money. He spends every penny carefully. William says wealth is responsibility. He states that he doesn't know if he deserves this money, but he's trying to use it well. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.